Oh, hello, and welcome to Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have...
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, we're talking about a creepypasta called Dylan. It is by Scotty Firebird on creepypasta.wiki.
I hope he owns a Firebird.
Yeah.
Otherwise that'd be unfortunate.
And I guess we'll just jump into this one. So, this one, our narratorman, because they don't really have a name.
No.
He's the only person that isn't given a name in this entire story.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle's dad isn't given a name.
That's true. And the roommate and the other roommates, the other tenants aren't really given a name.
They're also not characters.
Yeah, they're really they're just kind of shadows.
And the girl he makes out with doesn't get a name.
No.
The goat man doesn't get a name.
Wait, was it a goat man? Oh yeah, it was a goat man. I thought it was a goat for a second. Yeah. We're kind of jumping ahead though.
I don't even remember a goat.
Oh yeah, you were drugged at the time.
Yeah.
Or drunk, except no, you don't do drugs or drink. So like,
Again,
yeah, we're
spoilers.
getting ahead of ourselves. All right, so yeah, this story is about narratorman. When he was in high school, he'd hang out with his friend Kevin at their place, watching movies and playing video games, etc. And the house next door was one of those houses that like rented out rooms for like college kids and stuff. And one of the college kids that they met and Kevin became friends with initially was Dylan. Who seemed like a really nice guy, but like there was also something really off about him that the narratorman like kind of picked up right off the get go. Like he'd feel like he was being watched specifically by Dylan. Even when he turned around, like the window, like he think he was going to expect Dylan to be like watching him from like a window, but the window was always like the blinds were always closed and there's no movement whatsoever. But Dylan had this like really powerful stare or intense stare that like really creeped him out. So he thought he was kind of a creep initially, and then he did become fast friends with him. And Dylan did have like a little quirk where like you never saw him outside, but other than that, like. He was a pretty cool guy. He was actually really level-headed. Like, if anything, like any like fights or anything broke out, he was the mediator basically to try and cool things down. Mm-hmm. So one day, the other tenants in the house decided that they were going to start a college party at the house, and our narratorman and Kevin, being 20-year-olds, decided they were going to also join into the party.
I believe they're younger than everyone else.
Yeah, because everybody else is like college age, so like 24, 25 probably, or 22 or 23 or 21.
College is
Early
19.
Yeah, but like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, 19 to 24 is kind of like the usual range. Yeah.
Regardless,
regardless.
the main character is not in college, so he's not a college kid.
But he is 20, and they didn't care if like they were going to get like. If the cops were going to show up and like ask them about like if they were underage drinking, because whatever, like not like they drank anyway. Mm-hmm. But they're at the party, they're having fun. Though the narratorman feels like he needs some air, so he decides to go start heading out to the back to get some fresh air. Sees Dylan, who's who seems to be having a good time. Asks him if he wants to go outside, and he's very adamant about not going outside. To the point where he's like telling narratorman not to go outside either, like stay inside and stuff like that, and like he's kind of almost like freaking out a little bit about it, and eventually persuades narratorman and a couple of other people to hang out in his room because it's a lot more spacious and basically they can have their own little party in there and not be so stuffy.
Yeah, like Nair wanted to get outside because he's feeling claustrophobic or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and the room is a little bit more spacious and stuff. So he's in there with Dylan, Kevin.
He brings a random
two girls. Yeah. And eventually he kind of like starts hooking up with the one girl, much to Dylan's just observation. He's just staring the whole time.
He likes staring.
There's a cat, a really ancient cat in the corner, and things start getting really wobbly in like memory wise for the narratorman, as like he suddenly the room gets filled with, it just becomes like him and Dylan, like that's all he kind of remembers being in the room at one point. And then a goat man shows up, like a guy in a goat mask and like on all fours, just walks into the room. And there's some more weird stuff going on. And then the roommates show up and like yell something, but he can't understand what they're saying, or he doesn't remember what they're saying. And he just remembers like voluntarily leaving after that. And after that night, getting home and stuff like that, he kind of just never goes back and talks to Dylan or even Kevin and the other roommates for a couple of years. Like life kind of just moves on for a little bit. To a couple of years where then he decides, like, he starts thinking about them and decides to go back and see if they're still there. And of course, it's new roommates, new tenants there, and they know who Dylan is. Mm-hmm. But when he asks them about the room and stuff like that, they're like the room doesn't exist. Like he goes in to check it, and like physically cannot exist where he remembers it being. Mm-hmm. And he thinks that maybe like he was drunk or like disoriented by something like when it was there, and he recalls then like I never drank or did drugs or anything like that back then. Like so like how did I get mixed up? So it's really kind of weird and creepy. And then he finds out that Kevin went missing a year after that happened, after that event. I think I'm missing something that where Dylan did like while they were in that room and like that weird like stuff started happening. Dylan like looked at him and basically told him that like he's sorry that they had to go or something like that, or sorry that he had to leave or depart.
Who had to leave? Like
that narratorman like had to like go, or Dylan. Yeah, here it is. It's like I knew that basically Dylan is like just staring at him, like into him at one point, and he just says, "I knew it would be time soon." He had said, "We still have no idea what that means."
Oh, he said that when like everyone else is gone for the room all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's just him and Dylan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the housemates show up and like are seemingly angry, and then he leaves the room by his own choice, and then yeah. So yeah. Anyways, go back to when it finds out that Kevin's missing, and that's basically kind of it. Like, there's Kevin had disappeared. Dylan's nowhere to be found, and he realized that like he feels like a shitty person or a shitty friend for not realizing that his friend Kevin had gone missing, and he never realized it. And that's kind of where the story ends, because there's honestly nothing more to his experience. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't pursue it, he didn't investigate it, or at least yet, or hasn't pursued it or anything like that. So it's just this weird encounter he had a couple of years back about this guy named Dylan, who was really weird. So that's the story. Mm-hmm. So on to everyone expects the Grammar Inquisitions at this point. Mm-hmm. By this time, Kevin and I, as well as the rest of my friends who were our age, were in our early 20s and not afraid of being busted for underage drinking. Even if the cops did show up when the event got too raucous. Raucous? I guess that's the word. Which was sure to happen. I personally tended to refrain from drinking anyway. Wow, that was a little bit of a long-winded sentence, because that's mostly commas, and I think one semicolon. That's about it.
Doesn't it act as a period, though?
Yeah, it can be used as a period. It's just like, but before that, like that was like a small sentence at the very end. The other part of it is like 3 lines, basically. Also, oh Canada, thank you for having a lower drinking age than the States. This is clearly in the United States. Because our drinking age is 19, theirs is 21. Mm-hmm. And then my next Grammar Inquisition, that's actually Grammar Inquisition, when the party got particularly rowdy, I decided I needed some cool night air and started to make my way out to the expansive backyard. So it just needs to remove one of the sums. Mm-hmm. And that's basically my Grammar Inquisitions. Mikey, pull up the slack.
Yeah. Alright.
Please say you have none. After you just did that very long throat clear.
I've got front butts and front ends that I found. So
That's good.
there's at least that.
They shouldn't be there.
So I just thought, I was like, we got front butts and front ends and long-winded sentences. Just like do like a song, like a grammar acquisition song of like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah.
Like I kind of want to do that now. Like maybe for Christmas this year we should like we'll post on the Patreon like us we'll do I'll like write up the lyrics for it. And
If you're actually down for
I kind
doing it,
of want to do it.
Well,
It's
do it
kind
up
of funny, like the most grammar inquisition of all. Anyway, Mikey the grammar Nazi. Sorry.
Alright. I suppose no one else ever questioned it either. But then there was the party.
Yeah.
but
Then there was the party.
Yeah.
Even then. But that you didn't need like a however or like some kind of like
Yeah.
yeah.
Something to...
But not but.
Yeah.
Fuck but.
that is what some people do.
That's why I said that.
Gotcha.
I started making my way out, attempting to leave him behind because I had figured he was a little too drunk to reason with. But Dylan grabbed me, saying, "You can't do this to me."
Yeah.
Yeah, just get rid of that button. Just have Dylan grab me as I was exiting.
Yeah. Yeah. I would.
It sounds like you yourself are saying, just get rid of that button, just let Dylan grab me. Just do these
just
two
want
things.
Dylan inside me.
Oh, God. I was going with like a loving embrace.
Yeah, I'm not.
Wow. How dare you, sir?
To be.
What?
To be.
Yeah, I suppose.
Alright, and then next is a front end at the beginning of a paragraph.
That's weird.
Yeah. I remember being quite impressed at how well he did this. And I remember suddenly noticing that Kevin, the girl I'd been with, and everyone else, save Dylan and myself, were no longer in the room. So, and before that he was talking about the man dressed as a goat walking on all fours.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then suddenly, no one was there except him and Dylan.
Because him and Dylan be chilling.
Alright, and we have another front end. I even still feel once in a while like Dylan is watching me. Anxious, intense pleading. And every time I turn around, there is indeed a doorway or a window. But it is always shut.
Yeah.
Every time I turn around.
There's a window or door bound.
Especially when I'm in a house, because that's where windows and doors are. Or outside of a house, because that will also be windows and doors.
We are singing today.
Yeah, it's very sing-songy day. Or if it's in the forest, then it's a tie-in with the search and rescue woods. So it's a door with the stairs.
Yeah. It's actually just a full fronted house.
Yeah, totally.
Just at this point, like just the front of a house.
Yeah, like a movie set.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That would be rather creepy though. Like just if like you're just walking through the woods and there's just like part of a house, just like almost like it's been like just displaced into the middle of the woods. Like that would be really fucked up.
Like it's not burned down enough, and it's just like pristine.
Yeah, and it's like clean cut. Like
Yeah.
it was just like sheared off of a building and just placed in the woods.
That's weird.
Yeah.
And then you have another front butt. Sometimes I feel a sense of deep foreboding or imminent danger, and in my mind I immediately feel it has something to do with Dylan, or maybe even Kevin. But nothing ever happens.
I mean, you could even put like combine that last sentence, like, but nothing
Yeah.
ever happens, into the other one, or just have like nothing ever happens.
Yeah. Then the last front butt. I guess the worst part is that when I sense Dylan, I feel like he's telling me I owe him something. But I don't know why.
It's such a common like writing issue. Like the whole like button and thing. Like I remember. I don't know if this is the same kind of thing, but I remember when I was with Matt and Charlotte for Drunk and the Ugly, and we were discussing the Little Fears YouTube channel, and like the narrator there, she'd like read either her own stories or stories that she like got permission to do. And she did them in a really nice, creepy way. But like, I remember Charlotte talking about how like she had she used a lot of transitionary words that didn't
like
really,
front butts.
yeah, like basically like ums and like they're basically the literary equivalent of ums and uhs, and they really don't need to be there. And that's kind of what I'm always reminded of when we do the front ends and front butts is like they really are just the ums and uhs of like writing.
The problem is they work in dialogue.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying because it's like, oh, dialogue is a cheap way
It's
around
how
things.
the person
It's
talks.
literally how people talk.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because it's like you could say something, but then I would be like, but if you do this and that,
exactly.
like that's how I would start my sentence.
We say that we do it all the time, like in our conversations on this podcast.
Yeah.
Like we like constantly gripe about front ends and front butts in writing, but we are such criminals about doing it in dialogue ourselves. But that's because that's how a human talks. Like it's how it's a verbal tick kind of thing almost. Like how I have a lot of I have a lot of ums and uhs in my speech, but that's just because like my mind's moving too fast for my vocal cords.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's because speech is a lot more casual. You don't have to worry about structuring it out so specifically, but if you're actually laying it out like a story, you have to put more thought into it.
Yeah, and that's why we gripe on it, is because you have time to edit that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can't edit my talk. Like, unless I go over everything and get specifically say before I say it.
And like it's like future me does it all the time. Like does a little bit of editing for the episode, but I do not bother with like verbal takes and stuff like that because like it's just too much work.
Well, yeah, that's how we talk.
You know, it's how the character talks.
Yeah.
I just love that line.
That's how it works.
I know. I'm sure our audience is like super.
Oh yeah, they love it.
Yeah, I know. They're like,
they're saying it for the 14th time this episode. Great.
Yeah, love it.
It's my favorite.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah.
So that's it for my grammar inquisition. Gamer.
All right. On to the grammar in yellow. Well, shit, I start with an How dare I?
How the character.
Well, so.
However.
I pick all these wrong ones. Third paragraph. There's a weird start to it. It starts with, of course. As the beginning of the third paragraph.
Okay.
And the quote is, of course I told myself that this was my imagination and what often happens in these cases. I got to know Dylan, blah, 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 blah. It just seems weird. And also, it's a really long paragraph. It's a really long sentence. I might as well read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Of course, I told myself that this was my imagination and, comma, as what often happens in these cases, comma, I got to know Dylan, comma, hanging out with him and his housemates, comma, and realized that he was a very cool guy.
I think I know the reason why. It's because it looks like that sentence is actually supposed to be part of the last paragraph.
Yeah.
Because the last paragraph is talking about how he gets that weird, creepy feeling from Dylan, and like how he looks behind like the blinds and some of that, and they're always unmoving and stuff. And then it's like, of course, I told myself that it was like my imagination. Like, yeah, that sounds like that should be part of the next.
That part should be, and then when it says I got to know Dylan, that's a new thought.
Yeah.
So that's where it should be sectioned out.
Yeah.
Also, the way it's written out, the comma's after and on the first and. It's I told myself that this was my imagination and, comma.
Yeah. No,
So
no, you
that
actually
should be before.
No. Actually, it shouldn't.
So you're saying this is a complete thought. I told myself that this was my imagination and.
No. Okay. So the way it is like this is my imagination and comma, because the comma is actually breaking it into like adding a little bit like basically the commas here are kind of like how like are basically like brackets for the little bit of commentary that he's giving before it continues his sentence.
Okay, but there's another and at the end as well.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's not comma that way.
So
The first and is this was my imagination and, comma.
Okay,
and then the last one is his housemates, comma, and realized.
Okay, no, so here's actually what like this sentence is trying to say, and then like they insert a essentially a comment on, like, it's a meta comment in the story. So, of course, I told myself that this was my imagination, and hanging out with him and his housemates.
What?
Oh, wow. And realizing...
You're reading something...
No, I'm not. I'm reading the same thing.
I quoted this and you're reading words that aren't there.
No, I am.
No.
I cut out the part, like, with
You cut out too much.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, and I got to know Dylan.
That's what I forgot to add, yeah. Yeah, so really what I would say is that
I understand what you're saying now. So it should be, of course, I told myself that this was my imagination and bracket, as often happens in these cases, close bracket, I got to know Dylan.
Exactly.
Period.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Really, that is what's the problem there.
Gotcha.
Because he's inserting meta commentary into the encounter or into the situation.
Yep.
The meta commentary being, as is the case, like he's basically commentating on his own story, which you can do. It's just you need to do it properly with brackets, or some people do use commas to do that.
Yeah, but if you're using commas, don't keep using more commas for other.
Yeah, I didn't realize it should I got to know Dylan, period, and then the next sentence is how he was hanging out with him and stuff.
If it was perioded, it wouldn't feel as weird because I would pick up on that, but because it's one huge long string of a sentence, it's weird.
Yeah, you're just like, why is this and just something disappear like part of this the main part of the sentence?
And starting with "of course" is strange.
Yeah,
so that's what brought my weirdness with this whole sentence to begin with.
Fair enough.
But moving on. Damn, I start with a but. I really don't care.
Yeah,
it's just
it's dialogue.
Yeah.
It's literally dialogue.
Yeah, it is. If ever there was a dispute of some sort, Dylan would be the first to try to mediate.
Yeah.
The way that... Oh yeah, the weirdness that I found with that is, if ever there was, the way I would say it personally, just the way I talk, is if there ever was.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be the other way around?
You can do it both ways, but because
it works both ways, but the natural way that I would do it is that way. But that's me personally, of course.
It's more flowery the way it's written.
Yeah, if ever there was, or it's like if there ever was, like if there ever was, like also is kind of works the same way.
It's
but
also street level though, you know.
Yeah,
it's not like this is a play.
Well, that's the thing. The story is kind of written like a first hand, like they're just like hey, this is a really weird thing that happened to me a couple years ago. Like they're not like it's written very much in like kind of an immersion level thing of just like somebody telling you a strange encounter they had.
Except for this one sentence where it's flipped around to make it.
Well, I mean that could be how he talks.
That's
like, no, I hate this excuse now. I hate it. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah. It's just a different dialect situation.
Exactly,
yeah, sure, why not?
We're Canadian. They're Americans.
Yeah.
Clearly, because their age for drinking is a lot more than us.
Well, it could be any country.
I did look it up actually.
Oh, are they the only one that's 21?
Yeah, no. Well, I don't know if it's everyone, but I did double check. It's like I'm pretty sure you can drink after like under 20. It's like in Canada, and then in America it's 21. It's like that sucks. Sorry, guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and the last one. Sorry, I was reading over it so I didn't start it without being like, okay, we talked about this.
The entire rest of the episode is just silence and
dead
static.
silence. But yes, my last one you did cover. It's the sum sum.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So that's it for my grammar in yellow.
Okay. Now on to actual thoughts. When we would be standing outside, I would get the distinct feeling that Dylan, not just someone, but Dylan specifically, was watching us. And I would turn toward his window to see the blinds closed and unmoving. Of course, I told myself that this was my imagination, and, as what often happens in these cases, I got to know Dylan, hanging out with him and his housemates, and realized that he was a very cool guy. And the story ends. No spooks gotcha. Just like, I feel like it could have just ended there, and like that would have been a really good troll for the spooky story.
But like nothing would have even started.
I know, but it's like I got this really weird feeling about this new guy. Of course, as things go on, just like nothing actually happens. Like because of course, like it's like setting you up. It's like the false like the character has a false sense of security around Dylan as you go. But yeah, just like of course the story doesn't end there. But it feels like it would be a good place to stop, like just like or like fake credits to roll.
Yeah.
Were this a film or something? But moving on to my next comment. It was the apparent strength of Dylan's personality. I told myself that I go over because I also started like talking. Oh, I completely bypassed a comma, so I didn't have a break there. I keep wanting to say I was. It was the apparent strength of Dylan's personality. I told myself that I never questioned the fact that he never seemed to go outside of his house. It seems like a very obvious red flag to me. Like right off the get-go, I started suspecting like in the writing for this part of the story that something is clearly off with Dylan more than anything. He's going to end up as a ghost, isn't he? Or something.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to let you finish. But there's a red flag before you even start. The story's called Dylan.
Oh yeah, but it could have been like Dylan doesn't necessarily like just having like the name Dylan like doesn't. It just means that he's the focus of the story. It doesn't mean that he's the spooky thing.
Generally, the title is the spooky thing.
That's true. Yeah, in creepypastas, that is actually really true.
The title is like essentially the name of
like
their
Little Sarah,
monster.
Little Sarah, Dear Sarah. Yeah,
Eight-legged rape centaur.
yeah.
Russian sleep experiment. That's
The rape.
where the creepy thing is.
Slender Man, Jeff the Killer, Homicidal Lou.
Not all of them are though, because like I dare my best friend to ruin my life. That's
Yeah, no.
not. It's not called David Motherfucking King.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I wish it was.
Yeah, that would be fucking
Easier to say too.
King.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I just felt like at this point in the story, like, I was like, Dylan's gonna be a ghost, isn't he? Just.
Did we just have that story?
Huh? Yeah, no, I kind of
We just had that story.
However,
with Sarah.
yeah, and then we go on to the next thing of my story. I just felt like it was it drew too much attention to that fact.
Yeah.
Right off the get go. And then my next thing here is Dylan looked suddenly shocked and not only refused to go outside, but he asked me not to go either. I explained to him I was feeling particularly claustrophobic, and that it would probably do both of us a lot of good. Yeah. And it would probably do both of us a lot of good to get some fresh air. He suddenly seemed panicked, pleading with me not to go outside. Maybe he's just agoraphobic. And now we have the standoff between a claustrophobic man and an agoraphobic man.
I've heard agoraphobic.
Agoraphobic is the...
But I haven't heard the definition, so could you please tell me?
Agoraphobic?
Before cutting me off.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I knew what you were going.
Yeah, I know.
Agoraphobic is the fear of open spaces.
Yeah.
So basically, the outdoor, like people who are agoraphobic generally stay indoors because they don't want to be, they don't want to go outside. They have a fear of like
open spaces. And all that,
basically like outside.
I figured he was a vampire.
That crossed my mind too. However, I actually have a big thing coming up because I have a cultist corner. For this one,
It's a rare sighting.
yes. I think we did it like 2-3 sessions ago, or episodes ago.
Initiate the video recording.
But yeah, anyways, moving on to the next one I have. As the night went on in Dylan's room, my memory gets a bit foggy, and memories that might not be real start invading my thought process. In retrospect, I had first blamed it on alcohol, but then I remembered that I hadn't drunk a single drop of alcohol that night. Moreover, I had not smoked, snorted, or injected anything that might have forcibly altered my perception of the world around me. And yet, I remember some very strange things with a disturbing clarity within that fog. Just to kind of add a little bit of mundanity to this, they could just be suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Oh.
Wow.
Just not very well ventilated in Dylan's room.
Well, here's the other thing, too. He may have not taken any drugs, but if other people are smoking...
Yeah,
And-
second degree high.
Yeah. Second hand.
Second hand.
Second degree. There's different degrees.
Sorry, wow. We are not professionals on this show.
Speak for yourself, sir. I have a creepypasta reviewing certificate.
God, I no.
And there's also the thing that, like, even if he was drinking water, somebody could have slipped something
Yeah, get
into
the
his
roof.
drink.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's like
Gonna punch the punch.
It's like all right, so you didn't drink, and you didn't do drugs, but you're having these all like basically kind of like similar like hallucinatory kind of like system, like perception things, you're probably suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning. You need to get out, get some fresh air.
Is that a symptom of that?
Yeah, that's totally a symptom.
Oh.
That's totally what's going on here. At least in terms, like, at least when I was like reading it, I was like, yeah, I just did that Wimmus test at work.
Oh. Did you think that this was going to end with like the entire party dying?
Now we're all ghosts. Dylan was actually a ghost the whole time. He's keeping them inside to like die the way he did.
Yeah, so we can have friends in the afterlife.
Yeah, exactly. In purgatory. Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be all super happy that he did that.
Yeah. Party!
They're all like, "We hate you, Dylan."
Dylan, you son of a bitch!
Yeah, except all the are punches to his
Yeah,
face,
exactly.
and he can actually feel them now because they're all ghosts.
oh, God.
too. Yes.
Damn it! You guys can use your strength modifiers on me.
Yep. And then he gets punched for all eternity.
Yes, or at least until they get tired.
They're ghosts.
I mean, bored. Like they can only punch somebody so much.
Well, ghosts tend to repeat actions.
Yeah, that's remnant ghosts. That's not
Oh,
like
man.
sentient ghosts. They were going off the sentient ghost theory. Then no, like they'd eventually get bored and want to do something else.
I suppose.
But anyways, moving on from the mundanity to the cultist corner. So I'm going to start off with this long-winded quote. So this is right after he finds that none of the new tenants knew who Dylan was and stuff like that. This much I had been prepared for, but when I asked who lived in that room now, I was answered with the question, what room? I was allowed into the house to check it out, but the room was gone. In fact, upon scouting the exterior, I saw that it would have been impossible to fit Dylan's room onto the property at the point of the house. At the point of the house, I had thought the room had been. For a second, I allowed myself to believe that whatever drugs I had been on had just gotten me turned around, then reminded myself again that I had not done any that night, nor do I ever. So, Dylan might not be a ghost, but like a mythos sorcerer or cultist. Exhibit number 1, or Exhibit A, has an ancient cat, or had an ancient cat. Possible familiar. Exhibit B, a room that no longer exists. Dabbling in hypergeometry. Exhibit C, the character's perceptions of things was skewed while in that room. Either occult drugging, or he was getting brain-fuckled and rolling...
Beg your pardon?
It's a term among Call of Cthulhu RPG players when the mythos screws with your head. You get brain
fuggling.
You get brain fuckled.
Fuckled?
Yes.
Okay, I thought they said fuggled.
Yeah, it's brain fuckled.
Oh, okay.
Because your brain's getting fucked by the mythos magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as like gun fondling, which is a term for Delta Green.
All right.
So basically, he was rolling sand checks the whole time he was in the room, and just like his brain was just ignoring all the weird shit, or like trying to ignore all the weird shit, or he was projecting his sanity away so that he could like survive in that room. And then Exhibit D. Wait, so B.
This is why you use numbers.
Exhibit D. Also, he keeps saying he wasn't sure, he wasn't under any influence that night that he was aware of. Someone might have spiked or dosed him with something, or I mean, there was also something in the air, maybe like the carbon monoxide poisoning earlier, where I mentioned, or like again they were like fun. He had some kind of incense in the room that was like causing everybody to go under some
That was
weird
fuckling
influence.
with things.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that term. We're going to use
And then good. And then Exhibit E, my final one.
B, C, D, E.
Yeah.
Go.
Dylan was afraid of outside, or perhaps from something beyond outside. Outer gods who are pissed off that he's learned some mythos magic, or that maybe like the outer gods that are after him for like him stealing mythos magic from them, kind of thing. And that's my cultist corner. Just like I feel like as the story went on, like near the end, I was like, he's just straight up a Lovecraftian mythos cultist, or like a mythos sorcerer, like Kerwin or something.
In hindsight, I think the reason that he didn't want him to go outside was because if he went outside, there would just be like a freaking black hole or a void, like they're in some pocket dimension.
Well, no, because like yeah, maybe, but or maybe he was afraid of people going out to the back area or outside because he also was afraid about the front door. Maybe he was afraid of like somebody noticing that his room doesn't exist.
Yeah, like essentially.
Or it could be that like maybe he's just if he is a ghost, particular say, or maybe even some mythos cultist ghost hybrid thing. Perhaps he's just like got abandonment issues, like as ghosts kind of often sometimes do.
Yeah.
So like he didn't want like his new friends to like just like up and leave.
But it's not like he just met them.
Well, no, but I mean like but like he doesn't want him to leave the party and like leave to go to that sword because it reminds him that he can't leave the house.
Mm.
But yeah, that's my actual thoughts. Really, just like he's either some kind of ghost or some kind of mythos cultist.
I can see both being options.
Yeah,
probably more so on column B.
Yeah, because of all the things. Yeah, like all the like there's just so many things like creepy cat, like ancient cat that's been in his family since forever. The goat man situation that comes in.
It's just a furry.
Yeah. yeah. Or no, that's just a frat party.
Yeah,
that's probably just. It's actually more believable that it's just a frat party goer just donned a mask.
I suppose.
But then, yeah, all like again, like the hypergeometric room that doesn't exist. His fear of the outdoors, because honestly, like a lot of like, okay, not a lot of Cthulhu, a lot of mythos stuff, but also a lot of things that like from real life that people have used for mythos scenarios and stuff like that. Like there was a couple of artists in Paris back in like the big artist scene back in like the early 19th century or early 20th century or whatever, where some of them were like they would not leave their room because they were afraid of the big tentacled monster that was waiting outside in their hallway.
Oh, that's nice.
And that was probably just drugs and shit like that. But people like in the Call of Cthulhu like RPG like scene have used that as a scenario. It's like no, that artist was actually being stalked by some dimensional shambler or something like that. Yeah.
The hypergeometry actually has a very mundane explanation.
Oh.
Because it's been 2 years since he's been there.
They bulldozed. They renovated the room.
Yeah.
Well, no, because they said like it couldn't be on the it couldn't actually be on the property because of.
Yeah, they moved the house.
Picked up the entire house and moved it.
Yeah. Well, you see that one wing burnt down. So they're all like, well, but the rest of it's still good, so they moved that.
We have to do so much renovation anyways. We might as well maximize our potential like house layout situation and push this side right to the edge. And
yeah. It's just like, it's still good, just move it to the side.
Wow.
That is some, yeah. That's a little bit of a stretch for mundanity.
Not really. Because, okay, the thing is, it doesn't say... I don't know if you're going to bring this up. I wish the room had a number.
Yeah.
So he's not like... There is no room 7. Or 7B or whatever. 7.5. Some weird number.
7 3/4.
Yeah. There's no weird number, like... I don't understand what they're trying to get at with saying that room can't exist on the property. It's just specifically just that.
From that, I kind of it is an assumption, but I did kind of just insert that like this is the outer wall of the house, and like a few feet away is the fence to the next property.
Yeah.
So like physically there.
So the hall is like around the outside of the house, and he's on the right side of the hall where there's. But
yeah.
I just wish it said something more because for all I know, it could be it's in between these two.
Or like, sorry,
go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's basically what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Okay. When he goes like to go see the room, instead of the door, there's just a window that looks outside.
Yeah,
like that would have been a good like signifier again, like further signifying that like the hallway is like right to the edge of the house.
Yeah, just say like. When I went to the door, there was just a window outside, and right outside the window, 2 feet from the window, is the fence to the next property.
Yeah.
How could the room have been here? Like something more visual than just saying it can't be there because I say so.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Although, going the route of hypergeometry, it could just be an invisible room.
Yeah, no,
which literally, when he gets the feeling that he's being stared at, he is being stared at because the room's right there, but he can't see it. All he sees is the window beyond it.
Yeah. Just mythos magic, basically. The foot. Totally down for this. I gotta write some of these Delta Green games and Cthulhu games set in like these creepypasta like discussions we have. Because I feel like we get good fodder for those kind of scenarios.
Oh, for sure. Pretty much every recording we get good fodder.
Is that it? Or does it have more?
Yeah, I don't have a lot. you covered the whole drinking and non-drinking and
just carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
Like I really feel like that is like out of all of the like theories that we could come up with, I feel like that is probably the most like that is my Occam's razor. Like that is the most like straightforward path of like what's going on here. It's like they're all just suffering from oxygen deprivation because of the tight confined area and poor ventilation in that house.
I feel like I need to have a note on something super mundane now, but I don't have one.
No, I've done it for us.
Yeah, it's true. Well, both of you did.
Yeah. I feel really shitty right now because I just like what was his mundane thing?
the house renovation.
House renovation.
Jeez, we talked about it for
I know. I'm
5 minutes.
sorry. We were talking about Cthulhu Mythos stuff too, like right afterwards. So like I was stuck on that. Also, like I was saying that it wasn't feasible. I just recalled how many cottages in the last couple of years that I've seen moved to this, like either lifted up to make a basement, or moved slightly on their property. Like
Okay, but also, how many people were living in this place?
like probably like 4 or 5.
So depending on the size of it, I don't know how feasible it is because a cottage is a lot smaller generally.
My cottage.
Well,
no, yeah, that is not true. Yeah,
it is a sort of cottage dwelling, so they're basically renting rooms.
yeah. Well, the thing is, like, there are like the way if it's even a normal house, like even like if you go on like Discovery Channel or like the Outdoor Network or whatever, there are shows for like moving an entire house across state.
Yeah.
So like that shit exists. Like that is like it doesn't matter how big it is. They can move. Like generally, they can find a way to move the building. And who knows? Maybe even your thing. Like maybe the house is listing off of like foundations or something like that. So they had to move it a little bit more to the side. So yeah, I can see that being a little bit more mundane, more believable as a mundane explanation for why there's no room there suddenly.
Yeah. Or like there was just this one room hanging out there, and because that room was there, they had to have an extra like 30, 40 feet of land.
Yeah.
But then the landowner is like, it's just for one room. I'm going to sell it to the people next door. They can bulldoze that one room, and then they can use that side of the property.
Yeah,
and that's why it seems like it's not there anymore.
I really need this like weird alcoved room.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like it's kind of in the way. It kind of also like just kind of a security hazard because like it's right off of the house, like in plain sight. Like somebody can like find a way to break in from there, and then they get the full run of the house. Like just get rid of it.
Yeah,
It's unsightly.
I'll cut that off. Just sell that side of my property to the neighbors. It'll be fine. They were always wanting that anyways. Their kids like the tree in there.
Yeah. Quick thing about the game about the story that I just realized. Does it say that the goat man and like the other people that come through? Do they? I think it says they come from from the outside.
Yep.
Like outdoors in that room.
Yep. And
So
that
there's
just explained it.
Yeah, so there's like another. So there is actually a door in that room. His room is actually just the mud room for like a secondary exit, like on the like a side door kind of thing. That's really what it is. It's just it's a refurbished mud room that he's living out of. It's like.
But like they went to his bedroom specifically.
You know what's funny?
That's where his bedroom is.
Yeah, one of my friends actually used to live in a situation exactly like that. Like that was what he rented out. The owners of the house converted the mudroom into an apartment.
Damn.
But it was it was not a big like mudroom. Like it wasn't a big like house, or it wasn't like a
Is it a mudroom like my mudroom?
No, it was actually probably about the size of maybe half this basement room. So like
that's massive for a mudroom.
I mean, so it was probably like 30 by 20.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had like a very like compact kitchen. It actually had a room that like a wall that divided the main like hallway to a bedroom, and then the end of it was capped off to have like a living like room area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very small, tight like apartment, but it was basically like made out of the mudroom or like a small garage.
Damn.
Yeah. So I can definitely like see like this like that part just being bulldozed because maybe it's like older and like not as well insulated as the rest of the house, so they just got rid of it.
Yep.
More and more, they just bulldozed it and moved it over is actually seeming more and more plausible by the minute.
Or well, what I was just saying is like they didn't move the house; they just moved the property line.
Yeah, exactly. They just gave the other owner. They gave Kevin's dad extra property after he went missing.
Yep.
He felt bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like here's an extra thing because sorry that your kid got.
There's a tree on that property as well that Kevin really liked, and we thought you'd like to have it.
Wow. Yeah.
As a memorial.
Poor Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, on to notes.
Yes.
So when I first read this, I read it differently, and I didn't know... It was weird. Either way, the quote is, if ever there was a dispute of some sort, this is talking about Dylan would be the first to try and mediate. I read that as... Dylan would be the first to try to medicate. So I thought he'd like start drinking or like taking drugs immediately when people were fighting.
So you're saying that he's like self-medicating?
Yes.
I thought he was like
he'd be the first to try to medicate.
He's like, hey guys, no, cool down here, take a doobie, or like just like it just dose them.
Yeah, totally. He just has a whole bunch of like needles with drugs on him all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why he was so effective at just stopping fights.
He just
like sneakily walks up, just like an assassin. Just flips around, puts him back in his coat. Yeah, he has deployable wrist syringes.
God. Just an Assassin Creed bullshit.
Yep.
Or he's just like.
And then, of course, they have to tell their life story as soon as he hits them with it, right? Because that's how that usually works in that game.
Yeah, you have to, when you confirm the kill, you start talking to the victim like right before he dies, and then like suddenly he's like, you're in your own head, you're in some weird headspace where like he's like standing upright, he's like talking as if he's not murdered.
It's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Even though like really he's just like whispering, his like gurgling his last breath, like conversation,
like out of his neck hole that you just made him. Yes, it's weird.
Yep. Requesta in pace.
And this next one, and the only other one I have, I also read the wrong way. That the story didn't
love it.
The story didn't want me to read it this way, but that's how I read it, and the way it's laid out, it really sounds like this. And I remember suddenly noticing that Kevin, the girl I've been with, and everyone else, save for Dylan and myself, were no longer in the room. I read that as in
Kevin's the girl he was with.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. As I remember suddenly noticing that Kevin, the girl I was with, and everyone else.
To be fair, when I read the part where Dylan like got him into like he's like, come on to my room, buddy. It's like, buddy, like we're friends, but we're not. Maybe not be that. Well, maybe we're that kind of friends. I don't know.
No, they could be.
And then and then they invited Kevin and like two girls. Like, oh, okay. And then he started like watching intently as they made out. And it's like. And it's like
no, he's making out with Kevin. Yeah. It's like, wow, that's pretty neat.
God,
because I want to try too. They just walk up and kiss. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, like it's like whatever, like it's college.
No, I'm saying it's weird. That's true. It's college. Yes, they're experiencing the college life.
Yeah, exactly.
But I totally read that as if Kevin was the girl. I was not aware he was a girl.
Their perception just like he thought he was macking on a girl, but then it turned out it was Kevin.
Yep.
Then
Kevin has like long blonde hair or something.
Yeah, he's Fabio.
Yeah, totally.
we get
He's a very pretty man.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they hit it off so well.
Yep, totally. Anyways, that's it for me.
All right. Fair enough. All right, on to final thoughts here. I'm going to actually leave it off with the end quote of the story. I even still feel once in a while like Dylan is watching me. Anxious, intense, pleading. And every time I turn around, there is indeed a door or a window. But it is always shut. There are always blinds, and they are always unmoving. I guess the worst part is that when I sense Dylan, I feel like he's telling me I owe him something.
A kiss. You really wanted one that night.
But I don't know why. For me, this was a strangely compelling end to the story. Like, nothing is fully explained and resolved, But there's a creepy mystery afoot, and the way the story is laid out, and the end here, it's kind of realistic in terms of like an account being recalled and told it in real life. Like, just a weird encounter somebody has, like, from a couple of years ago. Like, man, this guy I knew from college, like, was, like, yeah, like, basically that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, if anything, the biggest issue I have with the story is why Kevin disappeared. Like, possibly as a sacrifice to whatever elder horrors Dylan needs to appease.
Because Dylan's jealous that Kevin got to kiss Narrative.
Yeah.
Did he have a name?
No, he completely like Dylan. It might as well just be Scotty Fireman or Scotty Firebird.
Oh yeah, Scotty Fireman.
Yeah, it might as well just be Scotty.
Yeah,
or Scott. But otherwise, I didn't mind the ending. Like it's an ending that like I feel like the story like just ends like with no real answers like asked. But at the same time, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind like just like having my own mind like kind of speculate and wonder.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only it's one of those stories that I feel could you get a sequel. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind just being left alone like as it is, and leave me, the reader, to just stew over it and like think of our own ideas of what the fuck has happened, and like maybe draw like fodder for it for like a game scenario or something like that.
You just want fodder.
Yes. I think that's one of the reasons, half the reasons I like those kind of endings. But like this one, like I knew, like I consciously knew, is like, all right, this ending should piss me off.
Why?
Because
you're the one who's like,
no, I know, no,
I don't want to know everything.
No, and I like this one, I was actually like, as like, I feel like this is going to piss off, I feel like this is going to piss off Gamer in Yellow or Mikey because it doesn't really end with any kind of like resolution. But at the same time, for me, like it harkens back to why I like those kind of endings, like these endings where it's that mystery. Like there's not, it doesn't explain what's going on, but that's okay for me. And another thing regarding to the setting of the story, the neighborhood with college rental spaces and some of that. Personally, I found it very relatable, and I was able to construct a very good visual of the setting through past college experiences. Like I know I can basically just slap this into the neighborhoods around the college I went to.
Yeah.
Because they always, like, all those like neighborhoods, like those suburbs had houses that they just rented out to college kids and stuff, and I've been to some of those houses. So I was able to easily get a like good visual for the story. It won't be for everyone. Like it won't be like that for everyone, of course, because like that is a personal experience that I was able to add on to the story based on what it was giving me as like details of the setting. But I really familiarized with what was being brought up as a setting for the story. Like I was able to like really get behind that setting. So ultimately, I would recommend this one. So, Mikey. No.
Yeah.
Gamer.
Well,
Anyways, that's
Okay, anyway, the first one. So.
yeah. So yeah, it's a non-recommendation because it has such mundane explanations. Like, guy goes to party, gets slips from drugs or carbon monoxide, trips out, sees some weird shit, and then 2 years later returns to a house that's been renovated.
Because of all of that, like, mundane...
what he's saying is because he can explain so much of the creepiness with mundanity. Danity?
Yeah, mundanity.
Danity, yeah. With mundanity, it's not good, is what he's saying.
That's... Okay.
Well, it's just
In his
an
opinion,
experience.
no, it's fair. No, it's fair. Like, yeah.
Like, and he's trying to shrug it off. It's like, I don't do drugs or alcohol, but in that scenario,
Even if you weren't doing them, like, again, carbon dioxide poisoning.
yeah.
Or he could just be saying it because his mom might be reading this.
Yeah.
I totally don't drink or do
I totally
drugs.
didn't do that
No.
back then or now.
Yeah, or now.
As he's like tightening his wrist and like popping in some
totally.
meth or heroin.
No.
Yeah. And then it would be nice to have more detail, like Gamer said, with the whole, oh yeah, that room doesn't exist.
The remocation situation.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm with you there.
I'm not. But all right. That's fine. We are allowed to have different opinions.
You're allowed to think poorly.
Wow, rude.
Also joking. Or am I? Now you don't know.
Gamer, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, but that time it was just a slap in the face.
Yeah, no, we can do this. It's like, is that a handshake, or is that a punch, or is that a slap?
Could be a lot of things.
Yeah. Or none of them.
Yeah, it's possible too. Someone to me?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Might as well.
Did I really just predict what we were going to do? Like, it's like, yeah, no, eh.
Okay, I'm with the cultist that I didn't hate the ending. Well, I'm sorry. I'm going against what you said unintentionally. I'm not.
You actually didn't mind the ending in this one.
Because no, it doesn't say anything about what happens, but it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
The only part that it doesn't explain well enough for my liking is the room location, because I didn't get a good visual of what Narrativman was experiencing with the loss of a room.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of the story, but the basement room situation where it shouldn't have been able to go into the other basement because the next door neighbor one. I got a very clear. Do you guys know the name?
Yeah, I do. I can't.
What is it?
We remember it.
It's not too recent.
No, it is. It actually fairly is. It is fairly recent, actually.
Is it?
It's called Hidden Doors.
Is it?
It was called something longer, but in late
That's the abbreviation.
In like recent years or in recent time, it's been renamed to like Hidden Doors, essentially, because it was the story that was that they used for the that fourth season of Channel Zero.
Oh yes, but yeah. Either way, that one. It was very clearly painted in my mind that there's two houses right next to each other. And there's a door in one that should be going into the other room, but it's not. It goes into a basement, and that shouldn't exist.
Quick thing about that story, actually.
Why?
Were those actually two separate houses, or was it like a townhouse where like they're like basically like separated by a wall between in the house?
They might have been separated by a wall.
Like,
I think it was one house.
Yeah, I think it was one house that was just separated in the house and halfway through by a wall. Yeah, like so. Yeah, okay. Sorry, not to go back to like a story that's like 5 or 6. Like,
That's fine.
Like,
Let's start talking about Camel Cove.
God, no.
Restart. Al Dente restart.
No. Yeah, Al Dente restarted.
Yeah.
Al Dente reboot.
Yeah, there you go.
God. Anyway, yeah, you're so.
Yeah, that one gave a very clear understanding to me as why that room can't exist, where this one just says it can't because I said so.
Yeah, it's camp, but I'm not going to tell you what the layout is.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
That's what really bugged me about it.
And again, like my issue is like, why did Kevin have to die? Or why did Kevin have to?
He's not dead.
No, he's not dead. But like, why did Kevin have to disappear? Like,
it did nothing.
Like it adds to the mystery. But like,
not really.
Honestly, no. I mean, it adds that's why it's there. It's trying to add more to the mystery of what's going on. But really, Dylan vanishing and like the room never existing is just is much more important than and like when you add like that Kevin also went missing, it feels almost like superfluous.
Yeah, and that's my problem. I have a lot of questions with this. Some of the questions are good questions, like. Dylan, what the hell?
Dylan,
what's with the room? Those are good questions because that's questions about the mystery and the potential creepiness.
Yeah.
But then there's other questions like, why can't the room exist there? Why did Kevin have to leave?
Why did Kevin vanish?
Yeah, like why did it take you 2 years to talk to Kevin again?
Yeah,
like after that day, he just stopped talking to everyone.
Fair, life does happen. Like so, like I have friends that I've like not talked to in like 3 or 4 years. And I have no idea what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
From college. Like,
but generally, that happens because you're ending school / college with them, or it's someone that's moving away.
Yeah.
All 3 of those instances, you see your friend off. Like you go talk to your friend and be like, "This is the last time we're going to see each other."
But something about that night made him not go near the house again. Like he does bring it up. Like he doesn't know why he didn't. It's just something about that night. He never went back to that house or Kevin's house. After
he didn't even talk to his friends anymore.
Yeah,
it's like whatever happened that night just made him forget about all of his friends.
Yeah, which could add to the part of the mystery.
But it's not clearly stated that he forgot he had these friends.
Yeah,
it's just like 2 years later I went back. It's almost like he always that night happened. he knows he has these friends, but for some reason he didn't see them, but it's not explained why. And that's my problem. A lot of things aren't explained that should be explained. That would bring more mystery to it. Like, why did he forget about these friends?
Or why isn't he addressing that, like, in the story? Like, it's like, I don't know, like, something about that night, I just, like, I was somehow, I think I've been compelled to not go near the house until, like, recently.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, when he does, like, maybe at that point, like, the Dylan is gone and, like, is gone completely from the house. And that's why he's suddenly, like, that barrier is gone to return to that area.
Yeah. And if there's a memory loss situation, like, when he gets back, the memories start flooding in, and it's like, oh, right, I had a friend named Keith or Kevin that lived right next door.
Melvin.
You know?
Here's an explanation. He went to that party, and then he was in a coma for 2 years.
That's dark.
A little bit. More believable, though, if that actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got into a coma because he suffered from, like, overdosing on carbon monoxide.
Or he smoked an entire marijuana.
And almost died.
Well, almost died, yeah.
Yeah. If he'd had 2 whole marijuanas, he would have...
Oh, yeah, totally done, yeah. If you have 1.5 or even 1.1 marijuanas, you're done, yeah. It's dangerous shit.
Yeah.
But either way, the best I could say is meh, because it brings up interesting things, but doesn't explain... Okay, it brings up the creepiness, and it doesn't explain the creepiness, but there's enough there to make you think about it, which I like. Everything doesn't need to be explained in that situation, but all the stuff that should be explained, that's mundane and easy, and Nair clearly sees, is not explained, and that annoys me.
Yeah, like if some of that stuff had been worked out, I feel like this would have been kind of almost the same kind of like genius that is the end of Sleepaway Camp, the movie Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah.
Where you just like, you walk away from that movie after the end and it was like, what the fuck? And you had to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
Like, like I remember we were at that convention and we were talking to some of the actors who were involved in it, and the one guy like saw the movie in theaters and he was just like, he walked out of the theater and sort of like basically just talking to random strangers like,
just,
for like a half hour after the movie, just talking about like what the fuck they just experienced at the end of that movie. And I feel like it's the same kind of effect for this story. Like, this story has that kind of sense of wonder as to what the fuck is happening, like with Dylan. But it's kind of, it is boggled down a little bit by some of these indiscrepancies, like Kevin's disappearance, the layout with the layout of where the room is in the house,
his sudden lack of interest with talking to his friends anymore.
Yeah, like that part I feel is like that could be worked on, because I see that being a potential connective tissue to the Dylan mystery.
Essentially, if the creepiness was stretched out a bit more and went a bit further, and all of the stuff preluding to it that should be explained to us that is necessary, like the location of the room should be clearly said early in the story.
Yeah.
So then later in the story, when we get back there and we see that it's different, us, the reader, can get the same visual.
Because it is also just like... because it is also just like Dylan just invites him to his room. And this is the first time we're ever hearing about the room.
Yeah.
And then Tommy Wiseau's there. It's like, oh hi, Narratorman.
Yeah. That's a true horror.
Yeah. It's like Dylan was actually Tommy Wiseau the whole time.
Yeah.
Wait, Dylan starts with a D.
Oh my god.
Same as D.B. Cooper. And there's the conspiracy that D.B. Cooper is in fact Tommy Wiseau.
Which means that
Dylan is Tommy Wiseau.
And also an esoteric wizard of some sort.
And that's why he has why he's like so considered such a weird guy, but he's also kind of like a nice guy. He's basically playing his Johnny character. It's like, no, let's not fight, guys. Come on, throw the chicken.
Yeah, let's go play some football, huh?
God, now I know what I gotta draw for this title card. It's just Tommy Wiseau behind blinds. It's like, oh hi guys.
Yeah. Or him just like in between, him going cheep 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 in between us, while like, well, we're on either side of him. Like,
oh god.
The best I can give is a meh, because the idea behind it I like. It's just the execution isn't as colorful as I would like.
That's fair. All right. Well, that was this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below, or if this gets posted, whether it be on Kiwi6, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTS@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas you'd like us to discuss on the show. You can also contact us on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. Gamer is at the Gamer in yellow, but without the W because they took his letter.
Yep, the stupid at sign.
Yep. And I am at Review Cultist. If you'd like to help support the show, you can go to Patreon, look up Dente Rigamortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes and extra content and early access. So just whichever one you feel like helping support us at. Very much appreciate it. For our patrons that are helping support us, thank you immensely, because you're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And to the listeners, and to the listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely. Like, without you, we really wouldn't have a show. So, I can't thank you enough. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well.